Hello. I wasn't quite sure if I was going to get to go live. My internet and my networking is kind of slow and sluggish, maybe because it's kind of dreary outside. I don't know, but it feels nice. I'm sleeveless today because I feel nice. I feel warm. I feel like my metabolism is definitely working for me today. Anyways, hope you guys have been having a fabulous week. Hope you've been learning and growing with so many things. Definitely share with me some of your wins about the power of pleasure this last week, the metabolic power of pleasure. I definitely want to hear about that. We are going to dive into preparing you for next week, for your 7th week in our chapters. Oh, I didn't lose you. Okay. It's kind of weird. I had a glitch there for a second. So we're going to be focusing on the metabolic power of thought. So our oils that we're going to really use this week are going to be InTune, as well as past tense. And we'll kind of unpack why these, but let's first get ourselves really focused in InTune. So you can put it on your temples. I like putting it on my pulse points as well. I like to put a little bit in my palm so that I can and then I'm going to rub it in to my temples. And sometimes if I'm like really having like brain focus issues, needing to just like really dive into something, I'll even rub it into the top, the crown of my head and stuff like that. All right, so we're going to focus on InTune. We're going to be in the power of thought right now, all right? So looking at the slow down diet and focusing on what all Marc David has to share with us here. One of the fundamental building blocks of nutritional metabolism is neither vitamin, mineral, nor molecule. He wants you to consider the word relationship. Each of us, whether we know it or not, is an intimate, lifelong, committed union with eating. It's not by accident. The same words that describe our relationships with people equally characterize our relationships with food. So think of these descriptive words: love, hate, pleasure, pain, expectations, disappointments, excitement, boredom, uncertainty, change. This relationship with food is as deep and revealing as any we might have ever had. So then he goes on through this chapter and he talks about how our brain eats. And I really liked this. So again, remember, we're going to the power of thought. All right, so we are really focusing on how we think about food and how it affects our metabolism. If the ice cream is your favorite flavor, all right, so let's say chocolate, and you consume it with a full measure of delight, the hypothalamus will modulate this positive input by sending activation signals via the parasympathetic nerve fibers to the salivary glands, the esophagus, the stomach, the intestines, the pancreas, the liver, the gallbladder. Digestion will be stimulated and you'll have a fuller metabolic breakdown of the ice cream while burning its calories more efficiently. All right, so if you're feeling guilty though about eating the ice cream or judging yourself for eating it, the hypothalamus will take this negative input and send signals down the sympathetic fibers of the autonomic nervous system. So what does that mean? It's going to affect your thyroid. We need to remember that the importance of our thyroid gland, all right? We already know that a well-functioning thyroid is a key requirement for a healthy metabolism, right? And we're talking about metabolism, the metabolism of thought. If you're not producing enough thyroid hormone, you'll likely feel tired, sluggish, or depressed. And you'd probably feel that no matter how little food you eat, and you still won't lose weight. So interestingly enough, though, a healthy attitude towards the ice cream promotes thyroid hormone release, which increases your output of digestive hormones and the motility of the digestive tract, and revs up the metabolic rate of almost every cell in the body. Isn't that amazing? It blows my mind every time I read this. And I've read this a gazillion times. And I love it. I love that continual reminding of how our thoughts truly do affect us in a very physical way. So any guilt about food, shame about the body, or judgment about health are considered stressors by the brain and are immediately transduced into their electrochemical equivalents in the body. You could eat the healthiest meal on the planet, but if you're thinking toxic thoughts, the digestion of your food goes down and your fat storage metabolism goes up. So this is really, really key, all right? So I'm not saying, and this is the thing, we have to really have a clear, clean thought about that food. So you can try to challenge yourself. I mean, I've done this before in the past of saying, I'm not going to feel guilty about eating XYZ. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, what's it going to do? What's it going to do this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I've learned that it's not worth it. There's some foods that just are not worth it for me because of the mental muck that I create. And so it's, again, coming to peace with our thoughts so that our body can truly metabolize our food, our thoughts, our everything, so that our bodies can thrive through our experiences, right? I like this. On page 127, he talks about the whole good food, bad food. This is so key because we have done this for so many years. There's one particular nutritional thought I'd like to alert you to that lingers in the minds of many. It's the most metabolically damaging, is best removed from our mental diet. The outdated thought that some foods are good and some foods are bad. Strangely enough, the notion of good foods and bad ones is largely unscientific. As we've seen, the metabolic value of any foodstuff is profoundly influenced by factors that aren't inherent in the food but issue forth from the eater. Relaxation, quality, awareness, pleasure, and so much more, right? So he wants to explain. It's clear that certain foods will enhance your health while others will detract from it. But what he's pointing out is that no food is morally good or morally bad. In other words, no one can say they've uncovered an evil conspiracy between bacon and eggs to raise our cholesterol. I like that. Food is morally neutral, and we need to really cement that in our thought patterns. If you choose to label a food bad, what does that imply about you if you eat it? And this is something to really journal, write about. Take a moment right now. If you label a food as bad and you eat it, what does that imply about you? If we label sugar as bad, we stop asking detailed questions to learn about sugar's nuances and complexities. That's just one example, right? So we're going to move on to exercise and how exercise can be supportive or helpful. So he has an exercise physiologist friend who explained to him that intense exercise can closely mimic the stress response in our body. So yes, aerobic exercise is great for us and has a long list of wonderful metabolic benefits. But in the wrong context, exercise can wear us down, elevating cortisol and insulin levels, generating inflammation chemicals, and locking us into the survival metabolism in which we vigorously store fat and arrest the building of muscles. So what we need to really look at is what is our motivation, what is our motivating force that drives us to exercise? Healthy habits driven by fear are not so healthy after all. Deep, self-limiting thoughts can do nothing but suppress metabolism, even in the face of intense calorie-burning workouts. Can you see an implication for your own exercise style? So really think about this. Do you work out because you enjoy it or because you're beating yourself up? Is the type and style of exercise that you use, is it nurturing for you or is it punishment for yourself? Find the thing that creates great joy for you. If you don't like lifting weights, that's okay. There's lots of great ways to still get that great bone density without having to lift actual weights, using your body as your weight impact, doing so many different things. But the big key thing is to find joy in what you do and remembering that there's a difference between exercise and movement. Movement is something that you need to do all day long anyways, right? Just keeping your body flexible and moving and enjoying this beautiful body that God has given us the gift to be able to fold our laundry, to squat down to get that pan from underneath the cabinet, to reach really, really high, to be able to get the things that you stored up above the cabinets, all these different things, right? Exercise is the type of movement combined with, vigorous movement where you're getting heavy breathing, you're allowing your lungs to really get deep fullness, you're allowing your muscles to kind of get pushed and taxed, but not in a way that is going to push your metabolic threshold to a point where you don't enjoy what you're doing, because then you're going to create a negative impact in your mind, and that's going to create a negative impact in your body. So your primary task this week is to identify and make a list of the core limiting beliefs you hold around food, body, health. All right? And this is an even deeper dive into how we think. It's about discovering the negative mantras that we silently and unknowingly speak to ourselves. These hidden mantras are the software programs that direct brain and body to construct a metabolic world of lack and limitation. Identifying and correcting them is a huge step in empowering the chemistry of the body. All right, so really sit down this week and find what are your limiting beliefs about your body, about food. Do you eat healthy because you love to eat healthy? Or are you motivated by fear? Do you exercise because you love movement and the feeling of fitness? Or is it because you despise body fat? Also consider the distinction between motivation and inspiration. Motivation can be potentially positive, and it's often used to push ourselves to act in ways that aren't truly resonant with our core values, though. So when a person may say that they're highly motivated, they're often highly stressed and physically drained. Whereas inspiration is a power that comes through us, and it's not necessarily seemingly not of us, right? So it can be expansive, enlivening, limitless in supply, and leaves us metabolically enriched. So how does inspiration register in your body? Does it give you a different metabolism? Also this week, make a commitment to find joy in your physicality. And this is some of where past tense is going to come in. So as you're diving in to find your thoughts about your body, about food and things like that, use past tense to help you uncover any wounds, any negativity that you have about food and about your body, so that you can unleash them, so that you can be focused on what were the roots and be able to really dive in and do that healing work. All right, so wrapping up, thinking, therefore, is a nutritional choice. Negative thoughts about food directly inhibit your digestion through the nerve pathways, your hormones, the neuropeptides, and your biosubstances. So positive thoughts about food enhances your digestion via these same pathways. Remember that the source of our motivation strongly influences our metabolism. So healthy activities driven by fear can yield poor results, while the same action powered by inspiration can yield more positive results. So those are your focuses for this week. And it's all about our thoughts, the metabolic power of thought. So how does fearless interweave with all of this? So chapter 6 is fearless resistance, wielding unworldly weapons. Doesn't the prosperity of the promised land always tempt us to distraction and self-medication rather than inspire us to battle on for more territory? So here I wrote a side note of when we deem a food bad or good, we moralize food, and this puts us at the risk of self-medication, right? So let's get real. Doesn't every problem get worse the longer you ignore it? Wouldn't you rather be happy and seem happy? Destroying strongholds means demolition of the patterns and ideas that hold us and this world in bondage. Things that we rationalize and justify, and places in our life, in the world, where Satan and the demons hide and are protected, such as our consumerism, our politics, our apathy, our food, right? So does the craving for constant entertainment or making placements of good and bad labels to our food, does it create a mass grave of sleepers that dons paisley maxi dresses rather than the armor of God in the invisible war of souls and territory? So here my side note was that the enemy wants us to continue to hide in shame of food, because then we won't address the real hurts, the real wounds. If the weapons of warfare are not worldly but have divine power to destroy strongholds, that's 2 Corinthians 10, 3-4. So what do we do when we live in the world but are not carrying on a worldly war? How do we resist the forces of evil in the middle of a parade of diversions? So here we can remember that food is not good or bad. It's not moral. It's how we treat it, how we use it that can be helpful or hurtful. Satan is not under our authority. This is really key here to remember that. Throughout scriptures, we are never encouraged to fight against Satan in an offensive way, and are even discouraged from doing this. Saint Michael actually thought it was prudent to leave Satan to God to handle, because Satan is not under our authority. So we are not asked to engage him offensively. To do so is impotent, dangerous, and foolhardy, and those who attempt it open themselves to serious spiritual attack. It's unnecessary, because from Josiah 4:7, it says, "Submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you." So all we have to do is put Satan on the run, to stand our ground in this armor of God, and let Jesus do the fighting for us, right? So how does this interweave with our thoughts, right? So the best way to truly armor ourselves is through prayer and the Bible. But when we find our fear of food overcoming us, we must not engage with the enemy. Instead, find love and scripture and tap. She has several different things. I'm putting on our breastplate, our shields. I'm not going to go into great detail because I really want you to dig in with that, and I'll share a little bit throughout the week, different scriptures from that. Here's something that's really key, though. Part of the helmet, or taking on our helmet, on page 147. I am in control of what I think. This practice is sometimes called custody of the mind. Brain science tells us that interrupting and rerouting destructive or negative thought patterns reverses dulled physical and spiritual senses too, assisting in the formation of new healthy behaviors. So see, here's another way to understand the strategy and how much power our thoughts have with our metabolism. Let's see. making sure that I had anything else noted. So, in review, keep in mind that the Bible never calls us to fight on offense against the enemy, right? And that when we're trusting in our position with Christ by virtue, by the sacraments, guarded by our thoughts against the lies of the Satan, we are putting on our shields. We are making sure that we are living in love and not in fear. So this week, really dive into your thoughts and how it affects your metabolism, your thoughts around food, your thoughts around your body, your thoughts around so many things, all right? And tap into InTune and past tense and see all the wonderful ways that this week is going to reveal to you your mindset around food, your body, and so much more. All right, you guys have a beautiful and blessed day, and I will talk to you more soon. All right, take care and God bless.